The man's hands were shaking as he signed the logbook, not from fear, but from realization. Before him sat the captured bomber, a silver monster gleaming in the weak winter sun, a B-17 flying fortress, intact, alive, and humming with the quiet confidence of industrial power. Everything the Luftwaffe had been taught about the enemy was a lie. They said America couldn't mass-produce such machines. They said quantity could never equal quality. They were wrong, fatally wrong. In that moment, Captain Hans-Werner Lerche, the test pilot chosen to fly the captured plane, understood what his superiors could not. The war in the air was already over. It had not been won by speed nor tactics, but by a nation that could build 1,000 fortresses faster than Germany could shoot one down. The B-17 was not just a bomber. It was a message forged in aluminum, riveted by millions of hands across an ocean. And it was speaking, loud and clear. You cannot outfly an army of factories. December 12th, 1942. A cold gray sky over occupied France. The Boeing B-17F Wolfhound, serial number 41-24585, was limping home from a bombing raid, 2 engines dead, hydraulic lines bleeding, and the fuselage torn open by cannon shells. Inside, 10 exhausted men fought to keep her alive. Lieutenant Paul Flickinger, the pilot, made the only choice left. With both wings shredded and altitude dropping fast, he aimed for a flat patch of farmland near Melun. The giant bomber slid across the muddy field, sparks flashing, metal screaming, until it came to rest in silence. The men crawled out, hands raised, surrounded by German soldiers. Their war was over. But for the Third Reich, it had just begun. Because lying there in the mud was the first intact B-17 ever captured by Germany. A treasure more valuable than gold, a window into an enemy they had underestimated for too long. Within hours, the wreck of Wolfhound was surrounded. Wehrmacht engineers, Luftwaffe officers, and camera crews swarmed the field, their boots sinking into the mud around the silver hull. What they saw wasn't wreckage. It was revelation. Every switch, every cable, every welded joint told the same story: mass production. The Germans had never seen anything like it. Their own aircraft, Messerschmitts, Focke-Wulfs, were built like sculptures, shaped by craftsmen, slow, expensive, beautiful. But this was something else. The B-17 was designed like a machine built by machines. Rivets aligned perfectly. Modular panels could be swapped like puzzle pieces, systems duplicated for redundancy. It wasn't elegant, it was inevitable. The Luftwaffe engineers documented everything. They photographed the self-sealing fuel tanks, the oxygen systems for high altitude, the wiring harnesses labeled in perfect English order. And slowly, the realization spread through the hangars. They weren't fighting men anymore. They were fighting factories. March 17th, 1943, Rechlin airfield, north of Berlin. The captured B-17F Wolfhound stood gleaming on the frozen tarmac, its American stars replaced by black crosses. At the controls sat Captain Hans-Werner Lerche, Luftwaffe's most trusted test pilot, a man who had flown over 100 enemy planes. But nothing like this. He started the engines one by one. The roar was deep, smooth, and unsettlingly civilized. No vibration, no protest, just the calm hum of industrial confidence. As the bomber lifted off, Lerche expected a beast, sluggish, heavy, uncooperative. Instead, the B-17 rose with surprising grace, its massive wings slicing through the cold air as if built for eternity. Even with 2 engines throttled back, it held altitude steady, obedient, unbreakable. He wrote in his logbook later that night, "Now I understand why they keep coming home full of holes. This aircraft refuses to die." The Luftwaffe had built fighters for speed. America had built bombers for survival. And in that single flight, Lerche realized something his superiors still denied. You can't defeat an enemy that builds its machines to outlive its men. At Rechlin, they didn't just study the B-17, they attacked it. German pilots climbed into their Bf 109 seconds and FUV 190 seconds, staging mock assaults while cameras rolled from chase planes. At first they laughed. How could a bomber defend itself like a fighter? Then they saw the tracers. From every direction, tail, belly, sides, even the nose, came a storm of red-orange fire. Each 50 caliber gun spat out 3 times the energy of their own 13mm rounds. A single B-17 threw 160 bullets every second into the sky. Multiply that by 20 bombers in formation, and the air itself became a weapon. Hans Werner Lerche described it later. You didn't attack the bomber, you attacked a wall of fire. The tail turret's twin guns cut the rear approaches to ribbons. The ball turret below spun endlessly, a mechanical eye that never blinked. Even the gunners on the sides overlapped their fields of fire until no path remained. Every angle was death. Even the bravest pilots broke off before reaching firing range, blinded by tracer light, their minds screaming to pull away. The Luftwaffe had met a machine that punished courage itself. At Rechlin, every test ended the same way. The fighters lost. From below, they met the spinning death of the ball turret. From behind, the Cheyenne tailguns carved the sky into ribbons of metal. From the sides, the waist gunners overlapped their fire, like weaving threads of light. The Luftwaffe's proud doctrine, the art of precision, of maneuver, of discipline, collapsed under mathematics. German analysts tried to find a weak point. Come from the front, they said. It was the only path left a suicidal head-on dive. At closing speeds of 500 miles per hour, the attacking pilot had maybe 2 seconds to aim, fire, and pull away. Many never did. The air over Europe filled with burning wrecks. Fighters that dared to challenge a fortress and found only oblivion. Hans Werner Lerche's final report was clinical but haunted. To attack a B-17 is to gamble your life on geometry. Every approach is a calculation of death. The Luftwaffe had lost its mastery of the air, not because it ran out of courage, but because courage itself no longer mattered. By the autumn of 1943, the Luftwaffe believed it had finally found a way to fight the fortress. The frontal attack. At Rechlin, test pilots calculated their odds, learning to dive head-on, fire in a split second, and break away before collision. It was desperate, but it worked for a time. Then came the B-17G. The first thing the German spotters noticed was the chin turret, a small blister under the nose, housing twin, 50 caliber guns. It looked harmless. It was not. Controlled by the bombardier, this new turret closed the last opening in the fortress's defenses. A German fighter approaching from 12 o'clock now faced 6 to 8 heavy machine guns converging on a single point. The safe attack path vanished overnight. The sky that once offered one fragile hope now became a perfect circle of death. The Luftwaffe tried everything: high-angle dives, shallow climbs, even unguided 21-centimeter rockets fired from outside the range of the guns. But the rockets were clumsy, inaccurate, and the heavy launch tubes slowed the fighters down just enough for the new P-51 Mustangs to catch them. In every test, in every sortie, the conclusion was the same. The fortress had no blind spots anymore. The circle was closed. At Rechlin, they thought they were studying an airplane. They were wrong. They were studying a system, a machine that represented not one factory, but an entire nation's ability to wage industrial war. When the engineers ran the numbers, the realization was catastrophic. The United States wasn't building planes. It was building a process. 3 companies, Boeing, Douglas, and Vega, produced a combined 12,731 flying fortresses. At the peak of 1,944, the Boeing plant in Seattle alone was rolling out 12 new B-17 seconds every day, 1 bomber every 2 hours. Each one was identical, modular, and repairable. Every rivet, every switch, every hydraulic line, standardized across thousands of units. A damaged fortress could land, and another could take its place in the sky within hours. By comparison, Germany's only heavy bomber, the Heinkel He 177, barely reached 1,100 units, plagued by fires, engine failures, and complexity. The numbers were merciless. For every German heavy bomber ever built, America built 10 flying fortresses. For every fortress shot down, 10 more replaced it. When German officers calculated this ratio, they stopped asking, "How do we shoot them down?" and began asking, "What's the point?" That was the true secret of the B-17. Not its guns, not its armor, but the invisible army of factories, foundries, and workers behind it. The Luftwaffe had found the fortress, but what they were really staring at was the proof that the war was already lost. By late 1943, the Luftwaffe had learned everything the Wolfhound could teach, but instead of scrapping it, they gave it a new mission: deception. The captured B-17 was repainted in dark blues and grays, its stars replaced with black crosses, its code name, a 3+ AE. It was transferred to KG-200, the most secret unit in the German Air Force, a shadow squadron built for infiltration, espionage, and psychological warfare. The plan was simple and brilliant: fly the fortress like a ghost among its own kind. At night or in poor weather, Allied radar operators would mistake it for a friendly bomber returning home. The disguise bought minutes, sometimes enough to cross the channel, drop agents, or photograph Allied positions deep behind enemy lines. There were even daylight missions, when German pilots would blend into American bomber formations, pretending to be damaged stragglers. For a few moments, they were invisible. Then they would turn, dive, and vanish into the clouds. The very plane that had proven Germany's defeat now carried German spies into the heart of Allied airspace. It was irony forged in aluminum, a fortress turned phantom. But the truth never changes, and no disguise could hide the collapse of a nation's industry. The B-17, that once symbolized invincibility, had become a haunting reflection of everything Germany had lost. By the spring of 1945, Germany was dying piece by piece, factory by factory. Fuel was gone, railroads shattered. The sky that once belonged to the Luftwaffe now echoed with the endless hum of American bombers. On April 10th, at Oranienburg Airfield, the story of the captured B-17 Wolfhound came to an end. It was sitting quietly on the runway, engines cold, paint faded, when the sirens began to wail. Moments later, the sky opened. Ironically, it was American bombs that destroyed it. The same kind of weapons the Wolfhound once carried, the same planes it once flew beside. It died exactly as it was designed to kill, under the weight of American industrial power. After the war, Luftwaffe General Adolf Galland would admit what many had known all along, that Germany's defeat was not written by bravery or tactics, but by mathematics. The Americans, he wrote, did not just outfight us. They outbuilt us. The B-17 Flying Fortress was more than a weapon. It was an equation, a perfect balance of design, manpower, and machinery. And Wolfhound, the one captured fortress that flew under the wrong flag, became a silent witness to that truth. When the dust of Oranienburg settled, nothing remained but twisted metal, and the lesson that no army, however proud, can outlast a nation that can build faster than you can destroy.